Check it out, check it out, check it out. We are back. I'm looking forward to this one. We're going to be looking at Resto Druid, level 90, Mists of Pandaria guide. Obviously, going to be talking about the changes for the healer, talents, glyphs, stats in Reforge, when to heal with what spells, and a comparison of all the healers at the end and where they fit into the current model. There's plenty of other videos out that I've made, especially for healing. So if you want to check those out, there'll be annotations and stuff like that. But otherwise, this one's pretty straightforward, so we're going to get right into it. Okay, so there hasn't been a huge amount of baseline changes for Druids. Only real thing we need to talk about is the fact that, just a reminder, Cleanse now has a cooldown. Mana pools have been capped. And the King's buff, Mark of the Wild, whatever you want to call it, as a Druid, no longer has stamina on it. All these things have already happened with 5.0, though, so it's kind of irrelevant to talk about at this point. But one way or the other, new spells. This is definitely the cool part. Okay, they haven't gotten a ton, but the stuff they did is massive, massive changes. Okay, we're talking about Iron Bark. All right, Iron Bark. The target skin becomes tough, reducing all damage by 20%. Hand to sack. Boom. 2-minute cooldown. Massive. Something they've always needed. Now they have it. Okay. AoE healing burst mushrooms. We got wild mushroom. Okay. You're going to put down the mushrooms. It's actually right there. Yep. Going to grow magical mushrooms. They're going to be placed 3 of them at a time. And then you're going to use wild mushroom bloom, another spell. It's going to cost 6k mana at 90 to basically heal. All 3 of them are going to explode and do some healing. Now, one thing Resto Druid did not need was more AoE healing, but the fact that they got this is definitely a good thing for the class itself, and it will attribute to a bit more burst. Then we got some other optional CDs in the talents. We'll talk about that in a second when we get there, but for now, we're just looking at what we have as baseline. Self-protection, we got Bark Skin, okay? Very cool. Always something that was in the frame here, but you got reduced damage taken by 20%, so you need to survive something. You're going to pop Bark Skin, you're going to be all right. Another massive, massive change. Symbiosis. Just let it sink in. Okay. Symbiosis is giant. This is not a symbiosis guide, okay? But let me just tell you this. You got to use it right. You got to know what it does for other classes. You got to know what it does for other tanks, healers, everybody. You got to know. You got to get something writ out. Maybe I'll do a guide on that too at some point. But one way or the other, you got to know. Okay, so go learn it up. But otherwise, it's the exact same model. Still got them hots. Innervate's still strong. Really, the only mana CD we have, always will be, I guess. And Trank is still like the oh shit button. As for stats, now hopefully by now you realize this, as 5.0 is actually out. Spirit and Int now function differently. Intellect no longer gives mana, so it's less of a restorative stat. It's basically no longer a restorative stat in any way. Spirit is the restorative stat. So as my other videos dictate, you will want to find the perfect balance. Okay, this is all up to you. It's completely rudimentary, all on your end. You do the math. But I would say Spirit likely over Int, especially in the beginning. You gotta be kidding me. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway, Spirit over Int, especially in the beginning. I would, check it out, balance it out, figure it out where you like it. The thing about Resto Druid is, though, they benefit more from Intellect because the more times you heal a second, the more spell power counts, right? This is something that's dated back to BC. Spell power is always massive for Druids. So it's going to be a bit different, but that's up to you one way or the other. Next stat, obviously, Haste. Haste breakpoints are massive. Haste is definitely the second best stat, but you need it to a breakpoint. There'll be thresholds. Maybe they'll be the same at 85. I'm not 100% sure. You can look that up on your own. Not going to give you false information because I don't know. But one way or the other, once you reach the first breakpoint, it's going to give you an extra tick of Rejuve, Tranquility, Life Bloom, Wild Growth, stuff like that. So that's huge, obviously. That's like 4. The spells I just named are massive spells. So, I mean, why wouldn't you want to get that? You got to get it. You have to get it. It's huge. It's like hit cap, but you might as well not have hit cap if there was a hit cap for healing. Second best, besides Haste, Mastery. I would definitely say it's very, very, very strong in some situations. Not so strong in others, but once again, it's on the table. It's yours to choose. You got to have the Haste breakpoint, though. Like I said, it's a hit cap. And then Crit is just garbage. Once again, at least Hots can crit now, but one way or the other, I mean, crit's just, it's never, especially in the beginning, because you need so much crit for it to be worth it. So stick with Spirit or Intellect, depending on what you need more. And Haste, breakpoints, mastery, and crit in that order. Talent time. Anyway, yeah, so let's just preface this by saying there's not a lot of great talents, but there's a few huge ones if you do it a certain way. So what we're talking about first is 15-point tier. This is all movement. I'm not even going to bother reading this out. All this stuff's on already, so you can check it out yourself. These guides were originally meant for both 5.0 and 90, but now it's just straight 90, so pick which ones you want here. But the operative changes that you will want to keep in mind are a 30-point talent and the 60-point talent for now. Okay, Cenarian Ward is basically Earth Shield. And while I like Nature's Swiftness, think about it this way, right? Nature's Swiftness relies on you, first of all, to click a button, to use an ability, and then use another ability to do it properly. That's great, but things you have to keep in mind with that are the person needs the healing, right? He has to need the healing, and in a 25-man situation, there's probably not a lot of times where that Nature's Swiftness plus perhaps, Healing Touch is actually going to save the tank in a vital way. Whereas this Earth Shield type ability, which we're calling Cenarian Ward, is a lot more preventative, a lot easier on the mana pool, a lot easier on the globals, and just an awesome choice for me. So I'm definitely on board with Cenarian Ward. Absolutely. 60-point talents. Once again, you can check them out yourself. I'm going with Force of Nature. I don't know about you guys, but I never really liked the old tree form thing where you have to shift into another tree form. I'm going with the Glyphs, so I'm going to be a tree 24/7 when I'm on my Druid. But I want the Trents. I want my tree pals slapping me the wood. You know what I mean? Like, you got to get that wood. So they know what's up. Chop a fella record. So they're going to cast some heals. It's basically like a CD. I guess it's random who they cast. But, hey, that's another smart heal, isn't it? So you'd be stupid to turn down a smart heal, in my opinion. Go with that. And then the 90-point talents. Obviously, nobody has that yet on 5.0. But these kind of, blow. I'm not really sure what they're doing with these 90-point talents. They're basically like if for some reason you need to go tree PS, tree slap spec, but you're not going to go tree PS. Okay, promise me you won't. Please, guys, please don't. Okay. But anyway, Nature's Vigil is the one I chose. It's just, I guess, if you ever need to. It's an actual throughput CD, so you might as well pop it when needed. But it's only a 20% throughput, so... And then the damage, it's whatever. You guys can choose that yourself. It's not really mandatory. Like, none of these are mandatory. So I would go with this one, though. Good throughput CD and maybe do a little extra damage. All right, so we're doing Glyphs. And this is a bit different from the other ones I've done because in the previous videos, it was like, now don't pick Glyphs. Don't even take Glyphs. They're that bad. That's how bad they were. It'd be like they'd be a downgrade. That was the joke, right? But anyway, no, that's not actually the case with this. Druid have some really cool glyphs. They have some cool glyphs, so we're going to talk about them. I'm going to look at all of them. The ones I've picked, first off, we got Glyph of Healing Touch. Okay, whenever you cast Healing Touch, it's going to reduce the cooldown of Swift Mend by 1 second. That's really, really, really good, right? Because Swift Mend is only a 15-second cooldown anyway. So that means that if you're using that often, you can use Swiftmend often as well. And Swiftmend's a really useful tool for both AoE and single target healing. Very versatile heal. I think this is a no-brainer. There's nothing in my head that says this is a situational one. This is something you want for every option. Okay, that's my opinion. Glyph of Rejuve is my second choice. Whenever you have Rejuve active, on 3 or more targets specifically, the cast time of the Nourish is going to be reduced by 30 seconds. Another good option. Nourish a go-to heal, obviously, right? Nourish is definitely going to be a bread and butter heal. So, if you can reduce the cast time of it, you're already going to, any 25-man raider will have at least 3 rejuves up. But it does depend on the situation. If there is absolutely no healing going on anyone besides the tanks, then this might not be the best option. We'll discuss possible options in a second. Glyph of Rebirth. Unfortunately, this is mandatory. Okay, you cannot come to my raid as a druid without this glyph. I don't care what spec you are. This is mandatory. People need to be res at 100%. This is more important than anything else. Unless there's a mechanic where people never take incidental damage. But for, like, think about Ultraxian, you know what I mean? How important it is to be at 100% when you res. You can die again if not. So you might as well not even have it. You got to have that glyph. Other options we're talking about, let's see, we got, there's a Life Bloom one. Let's see where it is. Well, let's look at, yeah, here we go. Glyph of Blooming. Whenever it expires, 50%. That's not the one I was looking for, actually. Where the fuck is the other one? That one's garbage. Don't pick that one. Looking for the other one. Life Bloom. There it is, right there. Look at that. Okay, so casting Life Bloom on a new target grants that target as many applications as the old target. So it's basically like the Warlock thing, the Soul Swap or whatever, where you shift your hots from one to the other. It's only with Life Bloom, and I mean, it's not the best option. It's certainly not. But think about the situation we discussed previous. There's only 2 people taking this, so it's kind of like Bale Rock. Well, I guess that's a terrible example. It's more like Patchwork. That's really the only fight in the game where only 2 targets ever take damage. But so you know it's a controlled tank swap fight. You got to swap from one to the other. And, you know, it's good. It's a good idea if you want to do this. Basically, swap your Life Bloom over the other one. Decent option. Other ones you got, the Regrowth one is peculiar. When you get a crit, no, it increases the critical strike chance of your Regrowth by 40%, but it removes the periodic component of the spell. So there's no hot afterwards. Hey, I don't know, you're playing a druid and you hate hots, you might want to re-roll, but if you do and you'd prefer straight up burst healing, this might be a good idea for a fight like Bale Rock, right? Where the tank needs specific heals and you get a bonus to your healing, stuff like that. So it could be used. Good option, good option. And then the final one that I like, it's all the way down there. Oh, another really interesting one, Stampede. I wish this wasn't a major glyph, but you can cast Stampeding Roar without being in the bear form or calf form. So that's going to be useful, I think. You might need it, but it's still hard to justify putting that in for anything else. Wild Growth is a cool one. Going to affect an additional target, which is really, really, really good. And the cooldown's only going to be increased by 2 seconds. That's not that long. That's not that long, but think about it this way. Say there's a fight like, we always go back to this example, Chimeron, where everybody's taking damage, but they don't need healing until a very specific part in the fight. And when they do, they need healing. Let me put it that way, you know what I mean? They need healing. So this is a perfect glyph for that situation. Perfect glyph. That would be a great choice. So one way or the other, there's about 7 or 8 options here. I like a few of them. You might like a few of them. It's up to you, but this is more geared towards 90, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so typically, this is a part where we talk about spell selection and quote-unquote rotation, especially how it's changed. But, I mean, this is really supposed to be for people who have played a Resto Druid before. So if you don't know some of these things already, it's not worth explaining. I got my mouse hovered over one here. It's Rejuvenation. Okay, if you don't know how strong this ability is, historically has been, and will continue to be, then you need a different guide. This is not going to be for you. You need something different, something welcome to World of Warcraft healing. One way or the other, hot 'em up, bang, bang is all I got to say, dude. Hot 'em up, set it and forget it, whatever you want to say. It's all about the hots, always has been, because of how much mobility you can gain from that type of throughput. Massive. Hots rarely overheal unless you're, it's a very slow fight, but it's damn near up there with absorbs. This many hots is just titanic. So keep that in mind. Single target, you want to throw the hots on, get as much as you can, get Life Bloom up, refresh it with single target heal, whether it's Nourish. That's the same component as always. With quick heals, regrowth, base heals, Nourish, big heals, healing touch. So use them how you got to use them. But now for AoE, it's a bit different, okay? The mushrooms are going to be a great burst in AoE healing. AoE healing as a druid is no-brainer, okay? You pop Wild Growth, keep it circulating, throw rejuves out where needed, Swift Mend to get the effervescence circle on the ground. If we pick the previous glyph, that might help you out get that down. But you need that where everybody's stacked up. You put mushrooms surrounding them, so in like a 3-point thing, okay? And then you just pop them, and everybody gets healed up to full. I swear to God, that's how it's going to happen. It's going to be insane. It's not as strong as some of the other options out there, AoE healing wise, but it's so easy. It's not even funny. It's just 4 spells, and it heals everybody up easy. So Not a lot's changed in that department. But keep in mind, symbiosis, guys. Throughout the whole video, I hope you remember the symbiosis is going to play a huge part, but it's an independent decision. It depends what you want out of it. So I can't make a guide. I can't incorporate that into this guide. Just real quick, I want to show you a bit of how this is applied. So you got your 3 mushrooms. This is what you want to do. Even when you click on the icon, you see how this is? It's a triangle. That's what you want. You want the target you want to heal in the middle of this triangle. Okay, because it's trust me, it's all physics. Don't worry about it. But anyway, so do that. You're gonna get a rejuve up. You're gonna use Swift Mend, and you're just gonna see how this works. And then you're gonna pop it, and all 3 are gonna heal everyone in that circle. Okay, you gotta get those. You gotta get the mushrooms on the tips of that circle. But you'll figure out that. Hopefully, you guys are already checking that out on live. But that's how you maximize your AOE healing. So we're done. That's it. Hopefully, I mean, not a lot's changed. So there's not a lot to talk about here. But in terms of the wrap up and comparison to other healers in the raid, they're still Resto Druids. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it is so straightforward. They might not always have the best throughput. They might not always have the best cooldowns, but it is so straightforward. It's not even funny. It's always been that way with Resto Druids. As far back as you could remember. They've always been that straightforward. So there shouldn't be a lot to talk about here, but one way or the other, single target, the weakest. I mean, it's still always going to be the weakest. They don't have that crate. They don't have absorbs. They don't have massive AoE. They don't have massive strong heals. Like, they just don't have it. They can fit in for sure. They can do it, but the weakest in my opinion. Okay. Now, AoE, probably the 3rd best in my opinion. Okay, unfortunately. Monk is not out yet, but it's going to be the best. This is recorded on the beta still a few weeks before MoP release, but they're going to be the best. Okay, let's not beat around the bush. Monk are going to be the best. Resto Shaman are crazy good. If that totem stays in, I don't even want to talk about it. Don't even want to talk. Don't even ask me. Do not even ask me. Don't want to talk about that totem. Okay, just not fair. But they're the 3rd best for sure. And easy healing. Very, very healing. Set it, forget it type healing. Let the HOTS do the work. Okay. Now, in terms of cooldowns, probably still the worst. They got the new one. They got the new Iron Bark or whatever it's called. Hand to sack type. Very good cooldown for sure. 2-minute CD, not amazing, but that's very useful. And Trank is good, but still only heals a few people, so it's not Aura Mastery or whatever it's called now, Divine Aura, Devotion Aura, and it's definitely not the bubble, and it's definitely not Spirit Link Totem. You know what I mean? And it's definitely not a 90% reduction from Monk, so probably still the worst. But I mean, they're a Druid. Like I said, it's always been straightforward, so should be no difference with that. In terms of survivability and utility, they have a lot of mobility. Always will, always have been. Probably the most mobile, absolutely the most mobile. In fact, I will say that, put it down on paper, the most mobile healer ever to be in any video game. They might as well never have to stop and cast if you do things correctly. Probably only 1 cast every 4 spells. So, most mobile, good survivability now, bark skin, other stuff. But that's that. That's a Resto Druid. You know what I mean? It's the bread and butter. It's when Blizzard made healing, they thought of the Resto Druid. Let's put it that way. So, hope you guys enjoyed. MoP's coming out, if you're checking this video out when it's live, very, very shortly. I can't wait, Bard Scott style. So, I hope you're on the same boat. I mean, look at this place. It's just gorgeous. It really is. So, enjoy your life, Blooms. Keep the rejuves ticking. See you later.